Check, check, check. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Carrie McMullen. She's our associate executive director here at Free. Good to be with you all tonight, and welcome to all of you joining us online. We're glad you're part of this community, glad you're with us tonight. And just to remind you all, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing we don't do. Y'all can shout it out on a count of three. If you're at home in your living room, you can shout it out too. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. Carrie, we've got some other things happening, though, that people might want to know about. Do you want to give us the good word?
I sure do. So first, I'd like to start out, if this is your first time here tonight joining us, we would love to get to know you a little bit better. So please come find either a staff member or a volunteer, and we would love to give you guys a welcome bag. Inside the welcome bag, you'll find some fresh roasted wagon coffee, which is some of the most freshest, probably not most fresh, the freshest coffee you will ever drink. You'll also get a bracelet in there that says breaking the silence of addiction, so you can rep our free gear everywhere you go and let everybody know that you're in the good fight. And then also, I think there's ways to get Connect cards to let us know how to contact you, get connected. If you want to volunteer, if you want to get on our newsletter, get to know us a little bit better, we would love to get connected with you.
Thank you, Carrie. I want to remind you all of something coming up this Friday. If you want to be a part of it and you haven't signed up yet, the Dynamic Dinner is happening this Friday. There's one in April, one in May, one in June. You might remember if you were here last week, Ryan Fila, he runs these dynamic dinners all over Denver. We're partnering with him for these next 3 months. So these are very intentional dinners, time together. Food is kind of the byproduct, but I hear it's actually very good food. It's the
Just Be Kitchen.
Why can't I ever remember that name?
You just have to try it. Once you try it, you won't forget it. It's absolutely amazing.
Absolutely amazing food. So you're going to get amazing company. Maybe. I mean, Tammy and I are going to be there. And there's going to be some other folks there too. But you just register online. You can go to our website, or you can do the camera thing on the QR code with that flyer. There are a few spots still open. And if you are interested in going, but you're one of the ones that says, man, the $55, I just can't swing that, but I really want to go, talk to me afterwards. We've got some opportunities. So I hope you be a part of it. It's going to be fun this Friday. Yeah.
Next, are we going to move on to the most exciting event of the entire year? I think it is, personally. It is our second annual golf tournament. We started this last year. It kind of helped with our capital campaign. This year, it's going to go, all of the proceeds continue to go to help us break the silence of addiction and continue to do the work that we do here. It's at Arrowhead. It's the day after Father's Day. It's a Monday. The tee time is at 2 p.m. Hopefully the weather will be absolutely amazing. Arrowhead is one of the most beautiful golf courses. It's like Garden of the Gods, but you can even just come and hang out even if you don't golf. It's absolutely spectacular.
That's what I'm going to do.
Right? Like, it's amazing. Like,
cart.
I didn't golf last year either, but it's so fun just to like be with your friends, and it's this wonderful community. Again, you can scan the QR code. It's on June 17th. If you have any questions, you can come and talk to me.
Thank you, Carrie. Bobby, is Bobby still here? Do you want me to make an announcement, Bobby? I will make the announcement. Thank you, Carrie. Bobby is our tech team lead, Bobby Gutierrez, and we have some tech team folks back there. We're always so grateful for all they do to run these Saturday nights, and they're needing some help. So if you're here tonight, or you're watching the replay of this and you're local, you can't do this if you're out of state, unfortunately, but we need some tech team volunteers. So if you're interested in being part of the tech team, talk to one of the people in the back and they will get you hooked up. It's a great way. Bobby says you can get your sponsor off your back with this, because you can tell them, yo, I'm serving and free with the tech team. I am being of service. So if that's you, talk to them. All right, y'all, the way we get started here at Free is with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. Very important part of our time together. We take 3 minutes for this. Something good and beautiful and profound happens when we celebrate together. God joins with us in the celebrations. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or birthday or a new job, new kids, new homes, whatever it is you're experiencing new in your life. We want to celebrate it with you. If you're online, you can just drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, whatever platform you're joining us from here. Here in the house, just raise up your hand. We'll take 3 minutes. Paige will have a mic, and Daryl will have a mic, and they will pass a mic to you by just raising your hand. Let's take 3.
I'm Kai, and I'm celebrating 399 days free of fentanyl.
399. Way to go, Kai. Free of fentanyl. Woo-woo.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I celebrate 6 months on Thursday.
Way to go, Ryan. Congratulations, man. Good stuff.
I'm Sarah. I'm here with my loved ones, and I'm celebrating 196 days sober.
196 days sober. Way to go, Sarah. Congratulations.
I'm Cinco. I'm an addict, and last month we celebrated 18 months, and my girlfriend's 21 weeks pregnant.
All right, man. Congratulations. 18 months and 21 weeks.
Well, after about a month of waiting through documentation and background check, I finally got the special needs teaching job I've been dying for, and specializing with autistic kids in Arvada. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm 60 days off alcohol.
All right. Way to go, man. Congratulations.
I have a friend named Anne who might be online tonight, and she is celebrating 9 years sober.
9 years sober, and congratulations. We'll celebrate that. Anyone else? Nothing too big or too small.
I'm Madeline, and a week ago I found out that I can go back to school. I got accepted into CU Denver.
All right, way to go, Madeline. Good stuff. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Cisco, and I am newly sober and a born-again Christian.
All right, way to go,
Recently.
Cisco. Glad you're here, man. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Charlie, and I hit 178 days.
178 days, clean and sober. Way to go, Charlie. Glad you're here. 10 seconds. Anyone have one left? 9, 8, 7. All right, I just made that awkward.
I'm
didn't I?
Paige, and I have 30 days.
Paige is 30 days sober. Woo-woo! Paige, that was like a mic drop, except you don't have to actually drop the mic. Thank you, Paige and Dara. Tammy Canaday is joining me here on the stage to join with our online people.
Our online friends.
Online friends. Let's see what online friends we have tonight. You're on
I
the
also
wrong
want to
side,
say, too, lots of sober birthdays, but we have belly button birthdays, too. So Jim and Amy both celebrated their belly button birthdays this week.
Happy birthday
Our cafe
to...
people.
Oh, yes. Happy birthday, Jim and Amy. Our cafe team, yes. Can I mention one other thing? We had a really cool thing happen at the 5 o'clock service. We had 3 people here, all 3. They met at Free 3 years ago in our old location.
Huh.
So Daniel, Kristen, and Kaylee. And they're all celebrating 3 years sober this week.
Whoa.
I thought that was super cool.
That is neat.
So congratulations to them. We celebrated them last service, so we don't need to do it again.
You can double celebrate. Mm-hmm. Monica says, I know I'm late, but I wanted to celebrate making it to a year on the 7th.
Way to go,
Awesome,
Monica.
Monica.
Woo-woo. Susie Clay says 15 years sober. Way to go,
Awesome,
Susie.
Susie.
Glad you're with us tonight.
Aw, and Monica says, happy birthday to Aubrey Davis. I used to
All
work with
right.
Aubrey Davis back in the day.
Back in the day. Happy
Yeah.
birthday to you,
Slinging
Aubrey.
coffee, yep.
Yes.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Kay says 858 days clean from meth and fentanyl today. Way to go,
Awesome,
Kay.
Kay.
Glad you're with us tonight. Congratulations.
Not like anyone's counting, Jen.
Uh-huh.
4 years, 7 months, 13 days sober today. Woo woo. Also celebrated 26 years with FedEx yesterday. Awesome,
419.
Jen.
Way to go, Jen. Congratulations. All right. Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, you can set it there. Thank you. All right, y'all. Well, we are in our third week of this, I think it's going to be a 7-week series. And it's called Now What? The first week we talked about I got into recovery, now what? Last week we talked about my family's a mess, now what? This week it is I let my guard down, now what? Well, when I was early in recovery, just starting to work through my 12 steps, I tried to convince myself and my sponsor that I didn't really have any anger, didn't have any resentments, didn't have any real fears in my life. And then I got to the 4th step. And man, in the 4th step, what I discovered was I was really terrified of vulnerability. See, if I had to admit that I was angry, well, then I had to admit that those people or that person hurt me or that I hurt people. If I had to admit that I had resentments, well, I had to admit that I was affected by some of the things that happened in my childhood. I was affected by some of the things of my past. And see, if I could just try to convince myself and to convince you that I was unaffected by these things, unaffected by people, unaffected by my past, unaffected by my childhood, well, then I could come across as strong. And I could be light. And I could have status in my life. And I could have a sense of belonging, which I never really knew how to get. And what I discovered was I had all these wounds, and man, I just didn't want to hurt anymore. So I didn't know how to get close to people because I didn't want to get hurt again. I did not know how to be close with God because I didn't want God to hurt me again. And see, it was a time in my life where I had some anger towards God. I blamed God for some of the things that happened in my childhood. I blamed God for what I thought was God taking my brother from this earth way too soon at too young of an age. And y'all, let's just be honest with it. The fear isn't really in letting your guard down. The real fear is what happens after I let my guard down. Will I be able to survive it? And y'all, if you're here tonight and you're saying to yourself, man, I'm letting my guard down, now what? Well, I would tell you to be very prepared for all the voices in your head to start getting louder. Those voices in your head will say things like, man, what are people going to think of you? Are you going to lose respect? And what feelings am I going to face, and will it be too much to bear? And what if shame creeps back up, and maybe you won't belong? And if I let my guard down, will I be hurt again? And here's what I know about vulnerability today. I think vulnerability happens when it's the only thing you have left. That in my experience, you'll let your guard down when you have come to the realization that every other way has failed you. That you tried to be strong and it didn't work. You tried to come across as smart and competent and having all the answers, but you actually had more questions that didn't work. You tried to muster up the self-discipline, and yet you picked up a drink or a drug, and man, it just didn't work. And what I know is if you keep your guard up, if you keep living that way, it will serve as a shield, a barrier between you and other people. It will serve as a shield. That guard serves as a shield between you and a relationship with God. And what I know is the scary part about that, the tricky part about it is it actually works. If you keep that guard up, you will be protected from being hurt by people. You will be protected from being in a relationship with God by being hurt by God. You'll be protected from it. And yet I would also tell you, if you keep the guard up, you will never truly experience the depth of relationships. So yes, letting your guard down is about letting God in. It's a process. Letting your guard down is the process of owning your story, the whole story, not just the pretty parts of your story. Yes, it's an act of vulnerability. It's an act of courage, and I've seen it time and time in my life and in the lives of others. When we own our stories, it's a way of saying to all the pain, all the suffering, all the tragedy, that you don't get the final word. You discover that your pain actually has a purpose. As the author Brené Brown said it, owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. You see, my brothers and sisters, are you willing to own your story, the whole story? Are you willing to explore the dark places? Have you arrived at a place in your life where you are now willing to let your guard down? So here's what I want to do with you for the next couple of minutes. I want to look at a story. It's a story about a guy named Joseph. We're just going to look at a very particular part of his story. This thing is absolutely fascinating. You might recognize the name Joseph if you've heard of Joseph in a Technicolor coat, Joseph in the dream coat, or Joseph in the many colors, however they call it. You might recognize this story. His story is told in several chapters of the book of Genesis, which is the very first book of the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament. And just to give you a little backstory to the particular story we're going to look at, Joseph, the last time he saw his brothers, they had just beaten him to a bloody pulp. They threw him in a pit, and then they sold him off as a slave to some passerbys. Now, why would they do this? Well, because his brothers were tremendously jealous of Joseph. They thought that their father loved him more than all the other brothers. Joseph was known for having these really fancy dreams and visions, so much so that his brothers hated him for these dreams and visions that he was having, so they'd come up with a plan. They get together, they get all the brothers together, and they say, hey, let's lure Joseph, our brother Joseph, into the fields, and when he gets there, we'll kill him, we'll get rid of the body, and then we're going to go home, and when Pops asks us, where's Joseph, we'll say, Pops, a terrible thing has happened, a tragedy. He was attacked by a wild animal and eaten, and now it is time to grieve Joseph. Now, one of the brothers speaks up, and he says, hold on here. Maybe we're missing something. Maybe we shouldn't just kill him because maybe there's some money to be made. Maybe we should, hurt him, beat him up a little bit, throw him in the pit, but then we wait for a tribe to pass by, and we sell him as a slave. And so that's what they did. They sold him as a slave. They got 20 pieces of silver for Joseph. The people who were passing by who bought Joseph, they took him out of his homeland of Israel and brought him into the foreign land of Egypt. And some years passed by, and Joseph became a very powerful leader in Egypt. And we pick up the story in Genesis chapter 45, and this is absolutely fascinating. Joseph is now the most important person in Egypt next to Pharaoh, who's like the top dog. Decades have passed, and in his brother's land there was a famine. So the brothers are very hungry. We're told that they're starving. So they make their way out of Israel and into Egypt, and they approach a leader there to beg for some food. And guess who that leader is? Joseph. But here's the thing. They don't recognize him, but he recognizes them. And you get to this point in the story, and you think Joseph is going to finally have his moment. He's finally going to give some revenge. He's going to pay them back. He's going to torture them. He's going to make life miserable for them, might even kill them. But owning his story is the only thing he has left. So it's him and his brothers in the room with some other servants and leaders. And Joseph asks everyone to leave the room. And now it's just Joseph and his brothers. And you expect him to get his moment, to get him back. And you know what the text says? The text tells us that Joseph starts to weep uncontrollably. And you're like, Joseph, dude, this is making you look weak. Here's what he says to his brothers. Check it out. He says, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him because they were terrified at his presence. They're facing their past, and that can be absolutely terrifying, can't it? Then Joseph said to his brothers, don't miss this part, come closer to me. And they came closer. He said, I'm your brother Joseph, the one you sold to Egypt. Now don't be upset and don't be angry with yourselves that you sold me here. Actually, God sent me before you to save lives. God sent me before you to make sure you'd survive and to rescue your lives. And do you see what's happening here? Joseph is letting his guard down with these simple and beautiful, some of the most beautiful words in Scripture. Come closer to me. Yeah. Do you ever notice how when you let your guard down, you actually get closer to other people? I mean, it's a strange thing, isn't it? You actually get closer to other people. Teray is our guest storyteller tonight. And I don't know Teray real well yet. We've only known each other for a couple of months. He's been coming here for a couple of months now. What I can tell you about Teray, the things I know about Teray is kind. Teray shows up. He works his recovery like his life depends on it. And Teray is a poet. And not just a poet, but he's an award-winning poet. I'm telling you this because some of you all know... well, let me say this first. It was not long ago, I was sitting in a room full of people. Teray was there. And Teray, he started sharing, and he said, I'm a transgendered black man, and I'm an alcoholic in recovery, and I'm learning how to let down my guard. And man, I was so taken by that. In fact, I got out my phone, and I wrote that phrase down, and it framed tonight's theme. And I tell you that because some of you know my history, my story with the gay community, and I'm speaking specifically about gays and lesbians. You know that I was born and raised into a religious culture that taught me that it was okay to hate the gay community. Not only for me to hate them, but God hated them too. And that it was the Christian duty to let them know that, hey, if you live this way and you don't change, when you die, you are going to go to the fiery pits of flame, a place called hell where you're going to burn forever and ever and ever. And about 20 years ago, when I was in college, I had a major shift happen in my life with this particular issue. It was a time in my life where I had all these questions bubbling up. I could finally ask my questions because my entire faith had been turned upside down. My brother was just killed in a car accident, and it just threw everything in the air for me. And I started, the thing is, I had two friends who were gay in college, but it wasn't just that they were gay, it was that they also loved Jesus the same way that I love Jesus, and I had to reconcile this with my faith. And so I started reading different books, and I started interacting with a different set of scholars and theologians, and they gave me a new lens to read these particular scriptures through, the same scriptures that I used to justify my hate and exclusion. And I arrived at a place in my life, thanks be to God, I do give God the credit on this one, God changed my heart. It was very clear that God was leading me to a place to say, Ryan, you do not have to fully understand people to fully love people. And then this Tuesday morning rolls around, and here I am driving to Free to meet with Teray to talk about what we're talking about tonight, to talk about our time together in the living room and the questions to ask and how the conversation was going to go. And I don't know how y'all do it, but sometimes the way I do it is I get in my car and I just turn the music all the way up and I hash it out with God. And it's a time of prayer. It's a time of me like audibly hashing it out and then spending some time listening and pay attention to where Spirit is leading. And so I got the music all the way up, and I'm saying, God, this one is different though, because I don't really understand all the way transgendered people. And I've got some questions about it, and I don't fully understand, and my kids ask some really hard questions about it, and I don't know how to answer them. And the truth is, I could stand before you tonight, and I could really look smart and competent and act like I have all the answers, and I've got it all figured out in here and in here. And oh, that'd make me look good, wouldn't it? And it was very clear to me, because sometimes God speaks very clearly and we have to pay attention to Spirit leading. It was very clear to me, God was saying, Ryan, have I ever told you, have I ever asked you to fully love people only after you fully understand them? No. In fact, Ryan, if you live this way, if you look at love this way in your life, your list of people on your love list, it's going to be really short. And sometimes you're not even going to make the list, because how many times do you act in ways in which you do not understand? You know what I mean? And y'all, this beautiful thing happened on Tuesday morning. Teray and I met. In fact, we didn't meet in my office because my kids were in the office watching their cartoons, so we met in Tammy's wagon coffee room, and we sat across the table from one another. We had our coffee, thank God for coffee. And do you know what happened? The strangest thing happened. When I sat at that table across from Teray, I was not filled and consumed with all of my questions and, I just don't understand it all. I just got to get resolution on that. I got to fully understand. I wasn't consumed with all that. And I don't say it's because I made a decision to get there. It was like God did something for me. And in that moment, I could see Teray as a fellow human being living on planet Earth with me. I could see Teray as a fellow brother in recovery, trying not to pick up a drink that day, living 24 hours at a time. I could see the divine image in Teray, the same divine image that you bear, the same divine image that I bear, and that's a hell of a thing, isn't it? And see, don't miss this part in the story, where Joseph, to the ones he did not understand, he says what? Come closer to me. And see, maybe you've been keeping your guard up with people that you do not fully understand. And I would ask you, is it possible that you are missing some of the most beautiful moments that life has to offer, the most beautiful moments that God has placing in front of you? And letting your guard down, you do need to know it does require an action step on your part. It requires the action step of come closer to me. That's action. That requires you doing something. And what I've learned in my life is I cannot let media or religion dictate those steps for me. Because they do the same thing, don't they? Media and religion, if you pay too close attention, they teach us how to draw the lines. They teach us how to keep people out. They teach us how to take a harder stance on issues, but they do not teach us how to open the heart. And see, what I have found in my life is that God and willingness and coffee do a much better job at teaching me to open the heart, teaching me to let down some barriers, teaching me to come closer to me. And y'all think about it. For Joseph, letting his guard down only happened with God's help. It was a power greater than himself, and he was clear about this. And think about it. Joseph could have done 1,000 different things in that moment. He could have said, man, this is my time to get revenge. This is my time to actually get my brothers back. I'm going to hurt them, maybe even kill them. No one would have blinked an eye. And yet, somehow in this moment, his heart expands. How does that happen? And he reminds his brothers not once, but twice, y'all need to know God did this. God brought me here. It wasn't because I chose to arrive here in this moment. God brought me here. And some of you have moments in your life where you too are very clear and you say, man, it wasn't because I chose to be here. I didn't choose this moment, but God did this. God did for me what I could not do for myself. And do you ever notice how when you let your guard down in your life, it actually gives other people the permission to let theirs down? Have you noticed this? Check out how the story ends. Absolutely fascinating. He, Joseph, threw his arms around his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept on his shoulder. He kissed all of his brothers and wept, embracing them. After that, the italics are mine, after letting his guard down, his brothers were finally able to talk to him. And y'all know Joseph had to be terrified at letting his guard down. He had to be scared. You know he was probably saying, all right, God, I'm letting my guard down, but what's going to happen next? God, I'm letting my guard down, but are they going to turn on me again? God, I'm letting my guard down, but now it's just us in the room. Are they going to try to kill me again? Joseph lets his guard down, and somehow in that moment, all of them are free. Forgiveness happened. Compassion happened. Unity happened. And y'all, I'll close with this. Even when it's all you have left, you can still reject it. You can. I did it for many years, rejected vulnerability. I kept the guard up. I was too scared. I did not want to get hurt again. And that's why today I know when it comes to letting down your guard, it requires a deep trust in yourself, your inner wisdom. All of us have that inner wisdom. We just learned somewhere along the way not to pay attention to it. A deep trust in your inner wisdom, a deep trust in something bigger than you. That when you take that step of come closer to me, you are trusting that you're gonna be okay. When you take that step of come closer to me, you are trusting that something bigger than you is actually holding you. And some of y'all here tonight, you would say to me, well, Ryan, man, you just don't understand. That come closer stuff, it's just really scary. And you don't know what happened in my childhood. And you don't know about these relationships. And come closer to me is just really scary. I would say, I know. You might even say, well, man, this come closer to me stuff, it's really risky. I mean, if I'm to look at relationships and the people that have hurt me, well, that's really risky. And I could get hurt again. And I would tell you, I know. Yeah, risk is baked into the whole thing. It's always risky. Relationships are always risky, and yet I would tell you, relationships are always worth the risk. And y'all, sometimes the letting down your guard, the act of letting down your guard will be the hardest with the people that you love the most. Do you know, it was right about 2 years ago now, Tammy, my wife and I, we were in a marriage therapy session together, and the therapist said something to me, and what I heard her say to me was, Ryan, in times of conflict with your wife, Tammy, what I want you to do is go ahead and cut off one of your arms. Now, what I heard and what she actually said were two different things. What she actually said to me was, Ryan, in moments of conflict with your wife, Tammy, is it possible for you to actually physically move in closer to her and take her by the hands? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's really hard to do. I mean, because your ego speaks up, and ego always tells me the other person's wrong. So in my mind, well, if she's the wrong one, why do I need to make the first move? She needs to make the first move, come move closer to me and grab me by the hands. I mean, ego will build up and it makes you really scared. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. Come closer to me when you're upset, when you're angry. That's a hard thing to do. And yet I can tell you, it works. It works. it softens the heart. Try it. Next conflict, for those of you in a relationship, romantic relationship, move closer. Grab the hands. It softens the heart. It actually works because you get closer to each other in that moment. If you're here tonight, you're saying, I let my guard down, now what? Maybe the best prayer you could offer is a prayer like this. God, help me live in a way of come closer to me. God, I'm terrified of getting hurt by people again. God, I'm actually terrified of getting hurt by you again. God, come closer to me. So I want to give you a moment to reflect during this song. This song is called Good in Me by Andy Grammer. And I would encourage you to take a moment and reflect, where in your life do guards need to be dropped? Where in your life are you terrified of getting close to people? Where in your life are you terrified of perhaps getting close to God? And in what ways do you need to open the heart so that those guards can begin to fall? Take a moment.
I like the way
Who's heard that song before? Nobody? I love introducing people to new music. You're welcome. All right, y'all, if you're new with us tonight, I want you to know that every single Saturday night, if you're new joining us online, every Saturday night, we have a guest storyteller in the house to join me in the living room to share some of their experience, strength, and hope around the topic at hand. And so, well, I already told you who the guest storyteller is. It's Teray. But what I didn't tell you about Teray before we bring him on stage is Teray is today 39 days sober. Help me welcome my friend Teray into the living room. You're back, man. Teray, welcome back on round 2. Here, I just told you Teray is 39 days sober, which is a very cool thing, big thing. And Teray will get into it a little bit with this story, but he had a couple of years of sobriety at one time and then went back out, which is part of your story. I won't tell you that part yet. I'll let him tell that part. But Teray, let's start here. You told me that from kind of the time of your birth, your dad knew you were different at 4 years old. That was kind of your first experience of saying, man, this vulnerability stuff, this is really scary. I don't know if I want to go down this route. And you lived all the way till the ripe young age of 27 years old, trying to be someone else. So can you just kind of walk through some of that history with us? Oh, sorry, did I not?
Sure.
There you go.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, so, well, I feel like it was a little bit like before I was 4. So my dad told me a story about when I was born, actually. And when I was born, the doctors were like, it's a girl, blah, blah, blah. And my dad was like, you are 9 pounds and 21 inches. And I was like, it's a linebacker. And that was kind of like, my introduction to the world. And so I was like drawn to an energy, but I didn't know that it was like necessarily gendered because I was a child. So I was just drawn to things that like would be perceived as more masculine. And so when I was 4 years old, for example, like I would love to wear swim trunks to go swimming. It was very normal to me. It was a thing that I was drawn to do. And I would get punished for it, spankings, anytime those kind of things came out. So I learned very quickly that that is not something that people appreciate. And that was my first kind of example that vulnerability is probably not, like I probably should start assuming what people want me to do and then act accordingly. So I actually did that all the way up until I was 27. Just assuming, kind of like how you wanted me to be. And that's how I would, I would act accordingly based off of that.
So I didn't ask you this last time, Teray. Do you know your Enneagram number?
4.
You are a 4. Come on now. I knew that's why I liked you, Teray.
Yep.
I'm a 4.
Yeah.
Kiera in the front row is a 4.
We're great.
We can all hang out afterwards.
Absolutely.
4s. Any other 4s in the house? Some of you are like, what in the heck is he talking about? We'll talk more later.
Go 4s.
So as a 4, that had to be very difficult to constantly, be shamed for not being able to be who you were.
Yeah. But, kids are really, I feel like, adaptable in a way that's beautiful, but also in a way that, could cause damage later. And so I don't know if I would have like even identified it as like something that was hurting me. I was just trying to survive and I wanted people to like me. And so I was acting in a way that best got people to like me.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened at the age of 27?
Yeah, so to kind of paint a picture, by the time I was 27 years old, I had a really big following in my community because of my poetry. I was always saying yes. It didn't matter if it was like any event, anything you needed, I was very much a yes person. And so I had a lot of people around me that, it was definitely like a lot of people that didn't necessarily know the depths of who I was as a person, but, enjoyed me being around, and I enjoyed that popularity. And so that's who I was at the time, an award-winning poet, award-winning educator, and afraid of saying the word no. That all kind of intersected together on a Friday where I was walking across a crosswalk. I was dressed androgynous during the time, and a white person in front of me was already in the crosswalk and turned around and pulled a gun and pointed it at my chest. And this was during the time that Michael Brown had just been murdered, and the Black Lives Matter movement was really catching steam. And I just nodded yes. And we walked across the crosswalk like that. Some random person in their car called 911. And when we got to the other side of the crosswalk, the gunman turned to go onto my school's campus while I watched my basketball team play outside and not know that there was a gunman on the campus. And so all of that kind of combined together was a change in like the way that I was drinking prior to before. I definitely drank a lot, prior to that moment, but then I began like drinking to die or drinking to numb myself. The cops did show up because that person called. But when they showed up, they were, reminding me that me and the young man were the same age. And that, really that he was fearful. And so I felt afraid to press charges because I didn't know the ramifications of that. And that guilt is what really drove my drinking and like a lot of trauma coming back up.
So this is also a time in your life at around the age of 27, you started your transition.
Yeah.
And you started, what you told me was you started drinking to die.
Yep. So, us fours. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so that happened on a Friday. By Monday, I was like, I need a transition because there was this feeling that I'm going to die and no one's going to know who I actually am. And how terrifying is that? While I'm also carrying all the trauma of what just happened, while I'm also addressing like the feelings of being like in a near-death experience and all the things that I had gone through that I never told anyone about. I too was very much like resentment. I don't know her, and anger. Don't know them, and so. All of that was happening at that same time. I transitioned that Monday and just kind of carried my transition while also leaning deeper into my addiction.
And things got bad enough for you. Another reason I love Teray is because he did some of the same stupid stuff that I did. One night he took all of his money out of the bank and just gave it away to people. It doesn't stop there. Teray would hold AA meetings in bars while being drunk, because that's what we all need. Drunk people showing us how to get sober in a bar. Yep. Tried to kill yourself. I mean, things got bad enough in your life where you had to try another way.
Yeah, and it's funny. I love that I can laugh at those moments now, but like I also think that they show the desperation, right? Of like, I'm drunk in a bar and I'm like, let's all say that serenity prayer, please. Like, it was just wild times. And I was so desperate for something to change, but I was also so fearful of what would happen if things changed. And so that actually led me, because AA was way too much. I wasn't ready to address that. So I went to church. Yeah. And when I got to the church, remember coming in and I was like mid-transition during this time in hopes that like there was something there that was bigger than me that I could trust. And I remember walking in and the pastor made eye contact with me and then immediately changed his sermon to this gay rhetoric and had said that like his church was divided into like sinners and then people that were following God, and that the sinners were basically marching themselves to hell. And so it got so uncomfortable and the eye contact, like the targeting got so intense that I ended up leaving, and I really didn't look down that path until I got here again.
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit about that? One of the very powerful thing that Teray said to me was when he came into Free a few months ago, you said, and it was interesting you used the word Jesus, not God. You said, I assumed Jesus hated me too. And yet you walk in, and I'm thinking, if I were Teray and I had that experience, and my guess is that wasn't your first experience, maybe it was, of a pastor doing really stupid things or religious leaders doing really stupid things and shaming and doing the whole game that some play. But you mustered up the courage to walk into a faith movement here, a recovery community here. What was that like? What was?
Yeah, I don't know if I mustered up the courage.
Yeah.
I think that God had a plan for me, and God also knew me very well. And so, luckily, Tammy opened a beautiful coffee shop that has a phenomenal mission. And so, I actually fell in love with the coffee shop first because I love coffee. I mean, well, a lot of us do, right?
Preach.
We love coffee. And so I was like, coffee, great mission. I mean, I can't do that mission yet, but I'll try the coffee out. The coffee was strong. It was awesome. It was good. Give it up for Tammy and all the people that work there. Phenomenal. The coffee was just perfect. And so after that, I started to see that like Free does like really cool like partners with community events. And the next thing I did was looked up CARE, Colorado Artists in Recovery, and tried a little construction collage class. We can give it up for them.
Yes. Darren Valdez and CARE.
Yeah, Darren does great things over there. And so I took this class and it was so cool. And I was like, wow, this was great. This was super cute. I loved it. And then after that, I saw that there were meetings. And so I started going to meetings. And then I feel like God was like, okay, he liked the coffee. He likes the art classes. All right. What if you start going on Saturdays? And when I came on Saturdays, I just heard the stories in the Bible in a way that I had never heard them before. Like Netflix has nothing on you.
You're too kind. All right, dude. So you're here free. We love having you part of this community. You've been sober for 39 days now. And tell us a little bit about recovery. And Teray was a significant inspiration to me of reminding me, Ryan, you got to let down your guards. I mean, when you talked about it that day, it was so powerful to me. It moved me. What has that been like for you in recovery?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrifying. It similar to that experience with the crosswalk. I had nothing left. As of right now, I have nothing left but to let my guards down, but to get out of my own way and believe that there is something bigger than me that is looking out for me. And the only thing that I have to do is just allow it to happen. I have to move out of my way and allow it to happen. And so although it's been the most terrifying thing, it's something that I have to consciously practice every day because I've been socialized to constantly like police and make sure that I'm showing up in a way that is approachable or soft or acceptable for people. And so doing the opposite has taken a lot of intentional practice.
And let me ask you this, Teray. For someone who's sitting out here tonight or someone who's watching online tonight, or they're going to watch the replay later on, and they've been hurt. They've had bad things happen in their life because of other people, because people get peoply and whatever happened. What do you say to them to encourage them to let down a guard?
Well, first, I think that, I would say to them that, being human is one of the most beautiful, powerful experiences. And it's also one of the most traumatic experiences at the same time. And so that when you let your guard down, you find out that you're not alone and that you're not the only one that's carrying this pain and wondering what to do with it. And I think that that's the biggest gift, is that when you say, I'm hurting, someone else says, I've either have been hurting or I'm hurting too. And so that's the first thing that I would say. And the second thing that I would say is just, giving yourself grace. The first person we have to be honest with is ourselves. And to be honest, I was really good at being honest with myself about not drinking. Like I knew that I needed to stop drinking, but I wasn't honest with myself about how much pain I was in and how much hurt that I had and how much lack of trust that I had in humanity. Once I was honest with that, lovely buildings like this existed. So that's the important part.
So the other thing you need to know about Teray is I told him this tonight. I said, dude, I Googled you this week.
Oh gosh,
And
don't do it.
award-winning educator and poet. He's got a new book out filled with his poetry called Moonshine. You can find it in any bookstore online or wherever. You can get it on Amazon, Moonshine. Teray's got some beautiful poetry, and I said to Teray, dude, would you just end our time together by, I thought last service he was going to read it, but Teray has apparently memorized his poetry, which is kind of cool. So you don't need the book, but y'all might need the book. There's a box of books here if you want to buy one before you leave, and maybe Teray would even sign it for you.
Yeah, why not? Of course
Why
I
not?
would.
So I just want to encourage y'all to take a moment, get your grounding. And it was powerful last time, man. So I don't. Are you gonna do the same poem?
I think so. Yeah. God
Okay.
I was like, I should switch it up, and God was like, no, like we're good.
This is
So
yeah.
I was like,
a
okay.
lot of good feedback. What's the name of this one?
The name of this one is Existence. Yeah. Right. And I was actually right before this sermon, and this has been an amazing time. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. I was telling my wife, we can give it up for Yvette. She's really good at coming closer, by the way. Give
Yes, Yvette is here. Good to have you here, Yvette.
I was telling my wife, I was like, I think I'm going to do this poem or this poem. And as I was driving over here, God was like, you're not going to do either of those poems. I'm going to put this one on your heart. And so I just want to dedicate this one to you, and specifically to the people that don't necessarily get to be physically in this room, everyone that's watching us virtually. You are made of hope and wishes and joy and dust and the desire to see tomorrow. Tomorrow holds the beginning, the unfinished yesterday, and yesterday is just built out of other yesterdays where once your ancestry stood, breathing into this wind that now feels like belongs to you, that now feels like it's your own, but it too belonged to your ancestors once. See, they once were young and hopeful, with a beating heart inside of their chest, with the world inside of their palms, wondering what could get better or worse than this. Wondering while holding on to a world that barely held on to them, yet still they chose the sun each morning. Still, they chose the moon each evening. Still, they chose the high road. Still, they chose to fight. Still, they chose to grit their teeth. Still, they chose to believe in you without knowing that you could even exist. You were once unfathomable. You were once unbelievable. You were once fiction that felt so real in their hearts, but it sounded so silly on their tongues. You, their magic. You, ancestor in the making. You living and breathing in a world that feels so goddamned unbelievable, yet you still choosing the sun. Still choosing the moon, grinding teeth, breaking free, and loving in a world that will soon let go of your hands, but it will always hold on to your dreams. For a future that will dream of a future the way that your ancestors dreamt of you. A future that will dream by any means necessary.
Woo! Teray Fowler Chapman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us tonight, Teray. Thank you for reading some poetry to or reciting some poetry to us. Again, Teray's got some books here because we asked him after last service. If you were here last service, Teray did not bring these on his own, but someone was sitting, it was Matt who was sitting on the couch. He said, Teray, do you have time to go home and grab some books, man? People are going to want to buy that. So we have some here. You can also jump on Amazon and get it there. But if you want a signed copy, you can only do that here. Thank you, Teray. All right, y'all, the way we close down things on Saturday night here at Free is similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations. We close with heartaches because maybe you've been carrying around some burdens this week, and they've been weighing you down, and you've been keeping those burdens in, and we take this opportunity to put words to those, to get them out, because you weren't created to carry burdens alone. It's why we have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So if you're online, again, you can drop your heartache in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, wherever you're joining us from. If you're here, Dara and Darren will pass around a mic, and I have the mics here. We'll take 3 minutes. Thank you, Darren. I didn't ask. I kind of just voluntold you, but I'm happy to give you an opportunity to be of service. So we'll take 3 minutes. Just raise up your hand, and nothing too big, too small. We'll take 3 minutes.
I arrived here between services and met a man named Jesse, and he's got 14 months and no home, and was looking for sober living. And after reaching out, I was told we don't have any more scholarships. During service, I got a text message that said they came and picked me up. I got in.
Oh, wow. That's kind of a celebration, man. I know. Sometimes they weave in with each other, though. Heartaches and celebrations walk together. So prayers for Jesse.
And guys, and pray for me, please. I've been in the ministry for years and getting high in the church for a long time. After that, I'm 60 days clear. Pray for me so I don't relapse. Thank you.
Hey, man, prayers for you. I, too, was a pastor who was getting drunk, and there's hope for people like us, man.
Hello, everybody. I'm Grant. My older brother right now is in Florida. He's at a treatment center. He's coming out of a psychosis that he's been in for about a month now.
Yeah.
He was just doing meth and a lot of hard drugs, so it was really scary to see him go through that. And my prayer for him is that he just becomes willing, he just becomes open, and the Lord just cleanses him, and I don't know, just gives him a new life in recovery. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It is indeed possible. Prayers for your brother. I'm glad you're here, Grant. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Fernando. I wanted to get a prayer for my brother. He's been homeless for the past 6 years, fighting fentanyl, but he has, he's just really bad, and I just hope that you can pray for him, that he'll come back and be sober, because he was a beautiful person sober.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fernando, lifting up your brother tonight. Prayers for him and you.
My dad is on his second round of chemo, and he's really sick, and I was asking if you guys can pray for him and his cancer treatment.
All right, prayers for your dad tonight. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. Anyone else?
I just would like to ask everybody to pray for anybody whose hearts may be hardened. They keep them from making the next step towards their recovery or towards God or anything that would help their life and their future.
Yeah. Lifting them up. Prayers for them. All right. Darren, you want to join me up here for a moment? Sure. I like that you just say yes. Dude, and you sport that sweatshirt better than anyone I've seen. All right? And the hat.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, dude. We'll join our online community. You want to read the first one, then I'll take the second one. And we'll go back and forth. All right.
This one's from Michael. Unfortunately, due to company restructuring, I lost my job this week.
Prayers for you, Michael. Yeah, that's hard. Frank says, prayers for my friend. Prayers, my friend. I'm struggling with alcohol again. Leave for rehab Monday. Frank, I'm glad you're going to rehab, man. Praying for you, buddy. There's hope. Stick with it.
This one's from Derek Bunyan. Please pray for and lift up my pops. Found out recently he has some serious medical health issues going on.
All right, Derek was our guest storyteller a couple weeks ago. Derek, prayers for your dad, man. Prayers for you. Glad you're joining us tonight. Kay says, I went for an MRI yesterday to shed some light on why I'm having migraines with aura. Turns out I'm allergic to the contrast and spent half my evening in the ER. Okay, prayers for you. I'm glad they got it figured out, though. Glad you're here with us tonight. Darren, thank you for joining me up here for a moment. No problem. Thank you and Dara for passing around mics tonight. Well, listen, if the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, and if it has impacted you, if you call this place, these people, this community, your home, your tribe, your people, well, we encourage generous giving here. We are funded by you, the people. It's how we pay for everything that happens here. So, and thank you. We'd like to take the opportunity every single week to say thank you to those of you who have made giving a spiritual practice in your life, a sacrificial practice in your life. It makes a huge difference here. And again, to you online people, I know some of you are involved in giving, and you've never even been to this physical space, but we're your people, and we are your people, and we're grateful for your giving too. If you'd like to donate tonight, there's a few different ways to do it here at Free. You can jump on the phone or iPad, whatever you're on, you can download the app. It's free to download, Free Recovery Community app. There's a giving button there. You can give weekly or monthly or one time, however you want to do it. You can do the exact same thing on our website, freerecoverycommunity.com, and there's a giving button there, safe and secure ways. There's also for you cash type people or checks. Even though it's 2024, we have giving boxes. There's one giving box beside these doors, one giving box outside of these doors, and that's another simple way to give. And I always love to mention our new but not so new dip jar. The dip jar is just outside these doors on a table, and you can take your credit card. You can't give more than 20 or less than 20. It's set at 20, and you literally just take your credit card, dip it in, dip it out, and then it lights up, and you get to feel good. And if you want to dip it again, you certainly can. If you want to dip a second credit card, you certainly can. Thank you for the hallelujah. Anyway, y'all, thank you for being part of that. It makes a huge difference here. Thank you. Fernando and Grant, would you want to join me up here to help close us in prayer? I was just moved by... you don't even have to say anything. I mean, no mics or, yeah, Grant, right? Yeah, you want to come on up here? And Fernando, right? I tried to remember names. Man, I was just moved by y'all talking about your brothers and healing for both of them and new life for both of them who are struggling right now. And so what I like to do with people is just encourage them to open their hands, because it's just a sign of simple openness to maybe let God in new ways, maybe begin to break down those barriers, to break down the guards that we have up, to keep God out, to keep others out, and take a big, deep breath. Yeah, sometimes that's just needed, isn't it? If you don't know the third step prayer, it'll be on your screen, and we'll pray it together. For those of us up here, it's on this screen. Let's pray this one together. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help, of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. Amen. Grace and peace to you, my free brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining me up here. Hey, glad you're here. Yeah. Prayers for your brother.